Hi, this is the second lesson in using JOBZ for selling print and similar materials. With the first lesson, we covered basically the personalization to make it suit your business, your kind of work, um, and run through the contact management capabilities because JOBZ has an equal footing in both handling people and in handling work. So without further ado, we'll dive right into it. I'm going to be clicking this button, which will take me to the home screen. Your home as a sales rep might look slightly different because I'm a manager. I see everybody's work. As a sales rep, you'll only see your own stuff. Um, and again, just a quick overview, there's three modules. The jobs module where you write up specifications and send out proposals and orders and um, do your billing, figure out your commissions, all kinds of work around the actual business. Then there's an address module that is where you manage your contacts. Who are you going to call next? What happened the last time you talked to them? What kind of printing do they buy? What market segment do they represent? And then there's a tab called memos, which is kind of a catch-all of various kinds of correspondence. Could be anything from introductory letters, equipment lists, formal business letters, you name it, anything in there. And it might be related to a job or it might not be. And the personalization functions, we're going to touch on that just again a little bit. In the U button in the upper right-hand corner, if you click that, this is where you input your personal information, such as your letterhead block, which includes your email address and return address and so forth. I do want to stress that there's a thing called the save folder, which is you create a folder, and when JOBZ sends PDFs out by email, which it'll do semi-automatically for you, those PDFs will be stored in this folder for your later reference. You can see it over on the right-hand side of my screen. I've got a folder named JOBZ PDF, and it has a stack of PDFs in there, including one I just sent out this morning. So this is where you also set things such as your coworkers, and we're going to be sending a request for estimate right away pretty soon to our estimating department. This is a default, that is, you put it in here, and then when you create a job, it'll automatically be entered into the job that's your estimator, so it knows who to send the estimate request to by email, blah, blah, blah. But you can change it. So on an individual job basis, you might send it to a different plant or whatever, that's fine. And the other thing that I want you to remember here is the work type. This is the kind of work that you do most often. JOBZ evolved pretty much out of a commercial print background, but we've got many customers in the sort of the wide format business or the cartons, corrugated and folding cartons and so forth. So choose the type of work you do most often. Let's leave it at wide format today. And again, if you need to, you can change it on a job by job basis. It helps you go quickly through the specifications if you're specifying this type of work to use that work type as the job type. Okay. So just without too much ado, which we covered mostly in the last session, let's just go back to the home screen and let's look at our contact list and see who we have coming up for a contact. Now we've got some training sessions set up for today. Down here you'll see the blue means today's date, red is a date in the past, and black is a date in the future. So just at a mind's quick glance, you can see how you're doing. I've got a couple of people drifting into the past here. I should probably, do something about that. In fact, let's click this little plus sign and make that happen out into the future by a week. So that took care of that. And then this guy here, well, we'll take about a look at that next week. Now, let's go, this guy, Serge. He's scheduled for me to talk to today, and in our last lesson, we covered how you specify, when you spoke to him and what went over and so forth, and what you got coming up. And that's where our date came up here and popped up in the list. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at his jobs tab. Now, you have a place you can just throw notes about the contact. You have delivery destination information that every time you specify him as a delivery destination, it'll put this information in there and so forth. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over here right to this job and this job tab, and you can see the job sorted by date. One of the most recent one you wrote up was here we use the invoice date a lot. Because it helps predict what your sales billings are going to be month by month and so forth. And this tab shows it by alphabetical. So it starts off with a B and then goes into C and so forth. So let's just click the new job button and create a new job for this guy. So what it did is it took us over to the first of 4 screens that we're going to go through to specify the specifications, the specs. All right, so it automatically put in the company name and his name as the sales contact, and it looked up and put right into the job his address information, including his email address. That'll come in handy because we're going to use it to send him a proposal. It also suggests that he might be the invoice contact. He might not be. So you might have, for example, somebody like maybe Otto handles the bookkeeping over there at abort, retry, ignore. So he's the invoice contact. Now, the terms of sale can be set here forever in the future. For every time you specify him as the invoice contact, it will look up and put in the terms of sale for, let's just say, net 30 on approved credit. So we're going to go through this first of 4 spec screens and just enter some information. Now we could call this the, let's just name this the swim spa brochure. That's some hot selling product in these day and age. It's called a banner because it's a wide format job. Remember we said we were going to do wide format? Here we are. This is our work type. Now if I changed it here, it would change the screens I go to next after I get in, like, the job title and a brief description of it. So if we have time, I'll go back through and look at some others. And we could call this I'll call it the grand opening store promotion. Now, you'll notice I typed something wrong. I got an extra I in there, and that's what it highlights the fact that I got something wrong. Sometimes it'll highlight a term that you really is not wrong. It's just not familiar with it. Certain nomenclature might be unknown to the general dictionary. See where it says the word label? I get a field I can drop down with various titles for this field. Let's say I want to talk about the versions. I want to say we're going to do half of these in Spanish and half in English. And I can type as much as fits in the box comfortably. If I go beyond that, it's likely not to print out like I would want it to on the various job documents. So keep in mind, don't go beyond the limits. Often if you do that accidentally, the program will warn you before you proceed much further, but just keep in mind you want to keep it in those limits. Let's do 1,000, 2,000, and 3,000. And I'll just click this little star M here and it'll multiply by 1,000, put that in there. This is where I can set my quantity allowance. We can just keep it at 0, which is what I set when I did my user setup, the personalization. I set it to 0. It's a new request. If it was being revised, I could check that, we're coming back through with a new revised for ink or whatever, So this is how you indicate whether it's new or revised. And there's a field that's now you'll notice it's kind of highlighted in pink. That means I won't be able to actually produce any documents until I enter something in here. This is a new job, or it's a reprint, or it has changes and so forth. So plant, this is a drop down of your choice for the default, but if you're selling into different plants, you can choose the other plant. And in that plant, the carp plant, there's might be a digital or a litho or a wide format press, whatever is associated with that plant will pop up there. It's not absolutely required. It comes in handy sometimes here. This is automatically entered for you as the RFE date, the request for estimate date, and the estimate due is automatically put in as the next day. And if you need to, you can put in a time. You can say, 7 in the morning. Yeah, real hot job here. This is you as a sales rep. If you had a team rep working with you on this account, you would specify over on Surge's contact record that so-and-so was the team rep, and then it would automatically appear here. And these are our other sales reps. That way, somebody can help you handle the contact, handle the jobs, and especially when you're going on vacation, that's kind of handy. Actually, when you go on vacation is one of the main benefits of jobs, because you can put one of your buddies in charge of all your work and say, I'll take care of everything while you're gone. You take care of everything while I'm gone. And it has all your jobs, all your quotes, all your contacts, everything. And you can have some real help that way. We have fields here called estimate number, job number. We don't know those yet. We will get an estimate number. And if we sell it, we will get a job number, and we'll put those in at that time. If I was doing a pick up a job from the past, it would have a previous job number here for reference, and also the previous estimate numbers would be referenced for the estimator. And this again is where I set my coworkers on the defaults. This is my estimating department, and here's my production contact over in the production department. Now, sometimes it helps to have a schedule in advance on a job as you're working through it, even before you sell it. It helps to say, this is a hot job. It's got to be off press next week, so we don't have time to order paper or whatever. You can use this handy proposed schedule thing. If we enter a ship date of, let's say, the 14th of April, here we are in 2021, and we click the auto button with a, let's put an interval of 2 there. So if I click auto, it'll calculate a schedule based on that 2. It'll work backwards 2 days to get to the press. So we're shipping 2 days after press. And you can see the numbers appear over on the right-hand side here with proofs 2 days before that. And it backs out weekend days. Although if you wanted to, you could show a proof on a Saturday and it would use that interval 2. So we've got files coming in on the 7th. We're showing proofs on Saturday, we're printing on Monday, and we're shipping on Wednesday. And we're doing our first delivery here on the 16th, although I could change that if I want, just pick a different day. And our invoice, this is, again, remember the importance of the invoice date for predicting sales by month, basically. It's going to bill in April. It's an April sale, and it'll show up in April pipeline, my sales pipeline. Now I'm going to go on to the next screen, but before I do, I'm going to show you the help button up here. This help button is on almost every screen, and if you click it, it has callouts that explain what all the buttons do and how to use the screen, and in some cases it's quite extensive reading. So handy for your reference. You don't have to call anybody. It's right there. Now, I just was on a screen, a help screen, and I said, go to home. Right, so it brought me up to the home screen. Now, where's my job? I was just working on this job. Okay, well, here is jobs that have been modified today, and it's right there at the top of the list. It's also in this bar up here at the top where it says 2 of 2 records. So if I click on this bar, it'll take me to the list view of jobs. There's the list of jobs, and I've gotten on one. If I want to go to this one, I use these arrows. I can go through a list of records. So sometimes I'll have a whole list of things. For example, if I say list all, it would list all my jobs. Boom, there's everything. Okay, that I've ever been working on, and I can sort that by press date or invoice date or all kinds of things. Now there's another organize that would be like what jobs that I've been working on this week. And there's a list of those jobs, including the one we're working on here today. And there's lots of things I can do with this list. I can print it out. I can mark a job as shipped just by clicking on the truck, and it's okay, it's no longer a working job, that kind of thing. When I see a highlighted job, if I click on it, it usually takes me to the spec screen where I kind of start this whole process. It's kind of like the home screen for a job. And by the way, a job can be an actual order, or it can be one you lost and it's dead. It went away. Somebody else got it. And the way you keep track of this, sometimes the database will do it for you. It starts off automatically in estimating. A job has a status, and that status helps you find it and report around it. And, like your working jobs, it'll show you all the jobs you have in production that you want to keep an eye on and make sure you don't forget an important date for showing proofs or whatever. And then when you ship it, you can mark it shipped, or somebody can mark it shipped for you, so you don't have to worry about it. And somebody can help you bill it, or you can bill it, send an invoicing draft. Compare that with a draft that comes out of the billing department. The jobs can function completely on its own, but it can also communicate and live side by side other programs that are used for production or estimating or billing and so forth. But this is software from the sales rep's point of view. So every job has a status. It starts off in estimating. When you quote it, it becomes pending. It might become dead when you lose it, and it might turn into an order, and then it's a working job in production. And then when you ship it, it's gone, and you bill it, it's a sale, and it'll use this invoice date down here. So it was a sold job in April of last year or whatever. You can always, these dates help you find the jobs later on, because you might want to find this job next year and clone it, and they have a new store opening, and you just you save all the typing that you did on this job and just copy it into a new job. So you're creating an entry into a database, and you'll get a lot of output from this input that you're doing right here. Now, there's a little arrow here. It's also down here at the bottom right of the screen. If I click that, it'll take me to the second of these spec screens, although I could, if I wanted, just click on that too, right? So the arrows and these buttons will take you back and forth between the screens. And the first screen is the basic who's it for, how many, and the second screen is you start getting into the specifications. Now, since we're in a wide format, I can get a drop down for product style. Let's call this a banner. Let's use meshed vinyl. And there's a number of choices here to choose from. These drop downs are all configurable either at your individual salesperson level or at the company level. They don't necessarily have to be what you see here or what you see on your version. We can talk about how you personalize that stuff. This is, let's say, a flex vinyl, and you can give some other kind of description here, and you can give width. Let's say it's a 48 inch, and you can put inch marks. It's got a, let's say, 24 inch, or you can use feet or whatever you want. You can talk about inks. You get drop downs. Let's say it's just a one-sided banner, and it's pretty much solid coverage of 4-color. You can add a PMS color to it, so and you can print it double-sided or not. And what kind of finishing? Let's just say it's got white grommets. Maybe it's also got some pole pockets. And let's say it's got a laminate on it. All right, 50 gauge OPP laminate, what the heck. And there's more room for a drop down on notes. So you can see that you can choose basic specifications, including, let's say it's white. Maybe that's important. Okay, so now I click the word set here, and it takes this information that I put in up here, and it puts it in these specification fields down below. These are the same fields you'd use for specifying a commercial job or folding cartons or whatever, but in a wide format job, you specify by choosing these drop downs and then clicking set. On a commercial job, you wouldn't do that. If this job was a commercial job, I'll just show you how it can change. Let's say it's a commercial job. When I go on to the next screen, I don't have those buttons to drop down. I just have fields, and I can choose from various things in those fields and so forth. So let's just go back and say, make this a wide format job again. And as I go through, it will specify, like at screen number 3 coming up here. What's here? Okay, well, some of this I set a moment ago. There's a few other things here. Proofs. All right, let's just say we want high resolution and position. I check that and I click this little gizmo over here. I call that a gizmo. I don't know what the real name is. It's an underlined left arrow. And it means put something in here. And it's usually put something that you choose from slightly nearby. Drop down, furnished. Okay. Let's just say files, InDesign files sent by email. And packaging, let's convenient cartons and label, and freight is additional. All right. Now, you see, I got a drop down here. I don't want that drop down anymore. It's going to basically cycle through the fields. Using the tab key will take you through the fields. And when you get a drop down, you can make it go away by clicking the escape key. In fact, you can make it come back by clicking the escape key again. And you can tab from one field to another. And you can choose things that are in that list and then change it slightly. Whatever you want to do there. The escape key makes the list come and go once you're in that field. And you can add to it, you can choose something that's close, and then add to it. You can fill up as much of this line as you see. Now, there's also a paper certification if you want to use, for example, FSC certified stock, or SFI, SGP, and all those guys. You can do that using this little gizmo right here. And if you choose 0, it goes away. So let's just say this is going to be an FSC job. And let's go on now to the next screen. I can click here on this little arrow button, and I'm on wide format 4. So there's 4 screens to specify a job. In some cases, there's multiple tabs within the screens. Like here's internal production details, where you can paste. You can copy from another program, and you can paste, and it's a huge field that allows you to paste an enormous amount of information. You can talk about the description or give it some kind of a title. These are internal details. For the customer facing details, you can have the same ones. You can put them in here and paste them in here, and then click them to insert into this field. You can insert documents, PDFs, and so forth. You can add a sketch and have that as part of the request for estimate and proposal. You have notes field. Let's keep this simple and just do, say, just a quick notes, proposal notes, and we can say something like proposal notes here, whatever. And again, you can type it and fill it up. You can also give little headers here. I could say, version A, version B, version C, and talk about the differences between versions A, B, and C right here in this field regarding A, comma B, comma C. So these will appear at the bottom of the proposal, also at the bottom of the request for estimate, but not on the sales order to production. This is something that's like before the customer makes up their mind about which way they want to go, not after. So in most cases, the information you're entering here is used everywhere, every time you output a document. But at the beginning of a project, there's things that you want to communicate between the customer and the estimator and so forth that are later inappropriate to convey to production. And that's the point here. You can see RFE and proposal, not the sales order to production. And then this set of notes here is just on the estimate. I could say, just an estimator, just a note to the estimator. And then I could mention who the competition is, the usual suspects. If I want the estimator to know and maybe there's a budget, maybe we have a dollar amount on the budget. There's a production note. I could say hello to the production person. And now this would survive all the way through the sales order process. So this is something that, it must be white grommets, some kind of thing that you want to survive all the way through, to production. Who's going to do the okay? Let's just say that we're going to have a customer and the rep on hand. Let's say they need 10 samples. In addition to the quantity, they want 10 samples to go to the customer. What line screen ruling? Let's just call this 20 micron. And we already said it was a banner. All right, so now we're at the point where we can go back through these screens, just cycle through them using the arrow, or we can go, directly touching the buttons for 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're going to look, I want to do something with this now. What do I do? Oh, well, let's talk about freight for a second here before I go. Freight charges, we already said freight is going to be additional, and we're going to do a freight estimate in this case. I need to know what the freight additional is and what is the destination. It's the same as the sales contacts destination. I click that, and it puts in that information so the estimator can look up the freight charges shipping it to San Francisco to that zip code. Or I can pick another company and pick that destination from, let's say it was going to A4 Graphics in New Jersey, and it was to this guy. Or this is let's see, AAA Flag and Banner, Frank Place in Los Angeles. All right. Now, you can also schedule multiple deliveries, and if you need like 5% of the job to go here, 10% of the job to go here, and so forth, this gets into, maybe not on a little wide format job, but on a big commercial job, this could become a very significant part of the cost of the job because paper weighs so darn much. Now, again, remember there's a help button, and there's some interesting help here. There's a folding styles screen that might come in handy for you sometimes. There's information about color work. In the old days, you had to do a lot of scanning, so you'd start off with the transparencies and do scans and outline them, all that kind of stuff. Pretty much passe these days, but it's there if you need it. Pre-press and finishing. And now, if we go to hit the back screen, we're back here to we're on screen 3 of the 1, 2, 3, 4 screens, and we're about to do a request for estimate. I've got everything I need. I can scroll through these screens, blah, 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 boom, and I can output an RFE. I'm going to pull down output. Almost every screen has an output. Almost every screen has a go-to and an organize, as well as actions. So look at the top of every screen. And remember, you can go from record to record using these arrows. And you can go all the way to the end of those using that arrow and all the way to the beginning of these. So I'm on record 1 of 8. And here's my list of 8 records. You can see I've got 8 records. And if I tab through using the little arrow key, I can go from record to record. I can go all the way to the beginning, all the way to the end. I can sort these because these column headers are underlined. I can sort by status or company or contact or job title and all this kind of stuff. All right, so let's get oriented here. Let's say I've just gotten myself lost. I clicked around, I didn't know, and I can't find it. I go to the home screen. Okay, I'm home. All right, I've been working on it today. Oh yeah, there it is. There's the swim spa banner. Boom, I know where I am now. Now, there's other things going on here, and I don't want to get into it in today's time, but you can put jobs into projects and have multiple jobs together. You can have a campaign work type where you have 16 different line items. You got one sheets and banners and brochures and handouts and envelopes, all throw them into one job together. You can do that. you can have memos related to the customer and to the production person related to the job, all kinds of stuff. We're just going to start off right now, and we did some specs, and we're going to do RFE, and I'm going to choose email RFE, and it automatically comes up with my email address for my estimator. And now at this point, I could choose other people to get a blind copy and so forth. That's what this dialogue is about. It's more for like doing a brokerage where you send out a request for estimate to a bunch of different brokers, printers as a broker. And then, but here, I'm just going to go click continue. So you look for things that have underlined words, and I'm going to continue. And it shows me what this is going to look like. And it is got a title that says request for estimate. It's got the company name. It's got the job title. It's got me as the sales rep. It's got the date, the time, page 1 of 1, and whatever kind of thing it is. It's a banner, and it's going to that would be the estimator's name. In this case, it's just estimating. A unique identifier within jobs, regardless of what job number it gets or estimate number it gets. It's a new request. This is what it says right here. So if the estimator was looking for the word revised, it would be there. Who's from, who's the customer, there's the FSC, there's the when the estimate request is due, when plant I'm thinking about printing it at. It's a new job, and this is the rough schedule, so she knows what kind of time frame we have as far as supplies and getting press time and so forth. And it has title, description, versions. Remember, we chose the word versions to appear as the header, and it says half Spanish, half English. It's got size, what it is, lamination. Now, it looks like I chose the word bottom laminate here. I didn't really mean to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel, and I'm going to go to that specs screen just so you see the preview is intended to help you catch little mistakes like that. And where this mistake occurred was, I believe, here on screen 3. Let's just say, I didn't mean to even, no, we're not doing a bottom laminate. And I can go right back to output, email, request for estimate, because every screen has an output on it and an organize where I can find things. I'm just going to right now choose that email RFE. I could print it. I could also, this is cool, I can make a dummy request. If I needed to have somebody make an actual sample of it, I've got all the specs in there. I just choose dummy request, and it has everything. And I could say, yeah, ship a copy to the customer, and maybe make some notes, and also ship a copy to production. This is very easy for me to output now a PDF I could send it to anybody. But I'm going to, right here, I'm just going to go back to the specs screen, show you where I was. That's where I was, 1 screen, 2 screen, and I chose output. I chose output, and I did that dummy request. I'm going to choose the email RFE, and I'm going to look at, yeah, that's where I want it to go, and I click continue. Okay, so now it doesn't have that erroneous statement in there. There's the quantities I'm doing. There's how many customer samples, press approval, everything right here. And I'm ready to go. Click send. I look for the continue button because I'm in the middle of it's called a script. It's a small program. And I'm going to click continue, and it's going to take me actually over to the email. Now, this is using my email client that I haven't installed on this, this case, Macintosh computer. It could be your Outlook on a Windows machine. It's whatever email program you use. And you can see what I have here is I have plain text. This is just plain text. There's no bold, there's no italics. It's just plain text. You can copy and paste that. You can just delete it if you wanted. This is like what the estimator could conceivably receive and copy and paste into their estimating software. This is the sales rep's input. So that's automatically just a bonus here. It's the plain text. And then below that is the attached PDF. So this is a PDF. and it looks just exactly like we saw it in the preview. And I will automatically also see that over here in my PDF folder. So I don't need to print a hard copy. I have a hard copy over here. And all I have to do at this point is click send. Now I could add to this message. I could, I could add my own signature. I could let's add my business signature to it. This will put a signature from my email program at the end of the email. But it basically created the PDF, composed it, and addressed it to my intended recipient. And now I just click send. Now, when the estimator is finished with that estimate, I'm going to get a price back. And I don't know exactly in your particular company, you might get an email, you might get a piece of paper, you might get a fax, whatever. You're going to take that estimate that you get back from estimating, and you're going to enter the price and send a proposal to the customer. Now, how are you going to find that? This is 3 days later, 2 days later, whatever. Well, you can always do a find job. Find job, and I say swim spa. Remember I said it was a swim spa banner. Boom, there it is. It's in estimating. I click on it, I go to the spec screen. Or I could say organize, and let's look at all my jobs in production or in estimating. Now I'm a manager, so I get a prompt if I want to filter it by different sales reps and so on. These are all the jobs in estimating. There's 7 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can look at this list if I don't see it. Oh, there it is at the bottom of the list. I click on it. It takes me to the spec screen. Now, let's quote this. Look for the word quote. See where it says next to the word specs, it says quote. What I'm going to do is quote a price to the client here, and I'm going to input that bottom line cost from the estimate into the top line cost field in jobs. So I'm starting with the bottom line from the estimate. Let's say it was $2,345. And I'm not doing additional thousands, so I don't have to put a number in here. But it automatically put a multiplier of 1 in here for me. Now, I might want to mark it up more than that. I might want to say add 10% to it. At this point, I need a price for 2,000. Now I'm going to show you a little secret here. I can calculate what that should be using this little function called extrapolate. Now, normally, if you're quoting 1, 2, and 3,000, your estimator would tell you what the prices are for those. This is kind of a shortcut. If you need to, you can say, I want to use the basic starting price and make it like drop down by 10% for that next quantity. So it'll extrapolate out automatically. Now I can put in all these prices at 100% straight through list price, or I can put in a target of 1.2, multiplied by 1.2, 120%, boom, click this little button here next to the word number 120, and it puts 120 in here. I could say, let's make this 125. I can make this go. Now, if I show the unit cost by clicking on the each box right here, it'll display the unit cost. And you can see I've got a declining unit cost. I've gone down from $2.18 to $2.50 and down to $2.37. That's good. But you see what I'm doing with the markup here is I'm sneaking a little better markup. And depending on what your commission plan is, you might see that displayed at the bottom, that your commission changes, from if it was 1.2, you made $502. If it's 1.25, you go from $502 to $570, and the client still sees that their unit cost is declining. So, you might get away with it. It's good for you, good for the company. You can add other things down below here, like you could say estimated freight. Oh, we did ask for estimated freight, so let's put that in here. And so the customer can see what that freight is going to cost. If you want it to be displayed as dollars, you can click the little dollar sign here. If you want it to total with the price, you can click this little box right here, and you can add as many as 4 things to the bottom that are like options. You can just call it what you like over on the left-hand side, and then if you want it to add up for the convenience of the customer, you put it there. You check that box where it says total. And then let's give it a quote date. Now see the words quote date are underlined, double underlined. Click. It puts today's date in that field. Although there will also be a drop-down calendar in most date fields, and you can just pick a date and you navigate from the months and so forth like normal. Now this is where you would take the estimate number from your estimating department and put that in that field right there. And if you had a job number, but since you're just quoting it, you don't. But you can put it in at whenever you do get around to that. And you can check okay, so here's our schedule. Oh, let's include this on the proposal. So there's a little checkbox that says include on proposal. And let's output something. Let's output the simplest thing of all, email proposal PDF. Now, what this will do is automatically just about everything. The next one down, name PDF, we won't create an email for you. It'll ask you to name, give the name of the PDF and ask you where to place it. This one will do everything automatically for you, and it will place it over in that folder that we set up on your personalization. So I'm going to choose email proposal PDF. Now, we can batch process, and if you have more than one job in the current found set, we have 7. Those are the jobs. We had 7 jobs in estimating. Let's just use this one. So it creates a proposal, and you can see it's got your letterhead black up in the corner here, the way you wanted it, with your email address. It has today's date and the estimate number. It has who the proposal is for. It has the title, description, version, size, all that kind of stuff. It has the little notes about A, B, and C, and it adds up the information at the bottom, and it's signed by you in your blue ink if you gave us blue ink to scan your signature. It has the proposed schedule across the bottom, and it has a place for the customer to sign, and it has your company's preference on the terms and conditions at the bottom. And looks good to me. It has the FSC logo. Remember that? We chose paper certification number 1. And we click continue up in the top. There's always a continue when you're in this preview mode looking, okay, this is what it's going to look like. I like it. Let's click continue and go. And it creates an email. And it attaches the PDF to the email. And of course, that PDF is also saved into my save folder over here. So I don't have to worry if I need to reference back on what I quoted when and so forth, or what were the particulars. But anyway, it's all addressed to my customer because it looked up his email address, and I chose back on the personalization to have my name automatically put in as a blind CC. So you can do that on the U screen yourself if you want to get a blind copy of an email. Sometimes that's handy. And you can add to this. You can talk more. You can add some friendly notes and so forth. This is something that you said you wanted to use as your default message on the U screen. So you can change it here, or you can change it there, so it'll be changed in the future. And you can add your own signature. What JOBZ will do is just grab your basic information and put it in plain text. Plain text has the advantage of surviving any email program without getting garbled up or changed. But if you want to use a fancy colorful email thing, you can choose your own software's capabilities there. So I'm going to just click send, and out it goes. And I don't need to print a hard copy, remember, because I already have it really as a PDF. And now it's going to ask me to put this in my pipeline by entering a % of likelihood. So the idea here is you can quote a bunch of jobs. Some of them are just like versions. You're not really going to sell it or whatever. But if you're using the pipeline capability, you can pipeline this job with very simple clicking yes, okay. I'm going to enter a percentage of likelihood. How likely am I going to be to sell this job? And I'm going to make sure it has a date in the future. So I just click OK, and the percentages are expressed as numbers. So it's a 1 is 100% likely to sell this job, and I could make it 50% likely. And it will perform some calculations. It'll put an amount that's 50% of the average of all the numbers I'm quoting here as my pipeline amount. So this comes in handier on a big job where you have like a low percentage of likelihood of selling it. It won't inflate your pipeline. But this job will now be put into the pipeline as a likely sale, so that when I do my pipeline report, it'll show up and I've got at least 5,000 booked for April. So that's great. Now, what else about this screen? It's now, you can see automatically a pending job. I didn't have to change that. It went from in estimating to pending when I set out the quote to the customer. So this will be found in that pending list. So here's a pending pull down. This is get organized, pending, and this job will show up in it. Again, since I'm a manager, I get to filter, but it'll show up and it'll probably be down at the bottom of this list. And yeah, there it is, sure enough. And other jobs will be in here. Some have red dates. That means it's slipping into the past. You can give it a follow-up date if you want. You can click on it and go to the spec screen. Just get a sense for going home, finding this job in the pending list. Pending, I did say that was a likely sale, so I could look in pending likely, and it'll find that job in pending likely. There it is down at the bottom. I can organize. Let's show you what the pipeline looks like. Here's my pipeline. Automatically goes and it finds jobs that are pending with a likelihood and puts them in here. So you can say April, Eric Clapton has this much and Jim Morrison has that much. And then you start getting into some working jobs as you go later into April, and then there'll probably be some jobs in May. This just helps you set a sales budget for the coming period of time. Whatever jobs you've got out there, they'll show up as long as they're indicated as a likely sale, and it'll grand total depending on your privileges. You'll see other sales reps if you're a manager. If you're just a sales rep, you only see your own. Click continue, and you can print it out as a PDF or print it. You get some charts and graphs and stuff like that. So what we've done is we've contributed to our sales pipeline. We've quoted a customer without having to type anything except the numbers on top of the specifications. Now let's take that and we'll finish up today. We're coming up on an hour. We'll finish up today with a quick look at turning this into an order. Now, I can do this in an amazingly short period of time. Let's find that job. Oh, there it is. It's pending job. And we're going to click on that job. And we're now going to go past the quote screen. We're going to go to the order screen. And again, there's a help button, right? And I go back. Looks very similar. I got 4 screens. I'm going to go through these 4 screens, and I'm going to create what's called a sales order to production. I don't have a job number yet. I don't have a PO number yet, so I can just say to come. Nothing has changed as far as who's getting the invoice or the cut, but we now have a different person getting the proofs. Since this is underlined, I'm going to click it, and it puts in the sales contact information, but it can be anybody in my database. I could say this is going to be, like somebody at Absolute, the designer, let's say, Advanced Printing, Dale Rogers is the designer, whatever. This is who's going to be the production contact. So we now have 3 contacts on this job, in addition to the sales rep, the estimator, and the production person. On the customer side, we have a sales contact, an invoice contact, and a production contact, basically. So um, we can specify how fast the proofs will be turned around by the customer. Let's say same day. This is me, the sales rep. This is my production planner. Remember, I set it as a default on the personalization, and I could change it at this point, say production planner in a different plant, whatever. This is the list of available choices within your company, and I can work with your management to change those values that appear there. Original order entry date, double underline, so I can click on it and it puts today's date in there as the order. If it was revised, I could click the revise button and put in a revised order entry date. Sometimes that's very important. I'm going to go on now to the second screen. I'm on screen 2 of the order sequence. And the first thing I want to do is pick which quantity. Suppose they went for the 3,000 quantity. I got, the 125% markup there, so I'm happy about that. I'm going to click that quantity, and it puts that in as the order entry amount over here. Now, additional thousands, you probably don't have that to deal with in this case, but if you did, you could quote them either the way you quoted them or at the max, just by using this click. So if we had a percentage of overs that we could sell them, we could sell them at the max, so they don't expect a decrease. So let's turn it in with a 1% quantity allowance. And if we sell them, if we produce them, we can sell them at this much per thousand. And what else can we do here? We could add freight. Any of these options, if we just click this, it would add them to the bottom line there to go onto the invoice. And if we had any additional items that we needed to show on the invoice, we could add them in here at this point and click that, and it would show up as we need to build it. Let's show you what I mean here. Let's say there's a plate change that wasn't part of the original deal, and it's going to be $1,100. And what I can do is then click this. No, I have to leave that field first. Plate, click this additional options to invoice. So now it picked up that number of $1,100. And when we turn it in, the order entry department will know that, I've estimated freight at this, and I've told them that they're going to be a plate change or whatever. So scroll on to the third of the screens, and you can see a lot of this stuff's already in here. New job, 20 micron, customer and rep, banner, sure. The only thing here is it's asking us, what are we going to match the color to? And it'll do this on every job, even if it's a reprint, because you need to tell the press room that we're going to print to a previous sample or drawdown or whatever they have. In this case, on this job, just go to the PMS book is fine on this job. And or let's say proofs and PMS book. All right, and must be white grommets. And remember, we had all kinds of possible details if we needed to paste those in here. And then there's one more screen. That would be the fourth of the order screens. And here we got a couple of things we can put in. Say I want some samples for the sales rep. Let's say I want 10 samples for the sales rep. Or I just want, 2 to the sales rep. General delivery notes. General notes about the delivery, regardless of the destination. And then we have a screen down below here where we have a multitudinous volume of possible shipping destinations. Very simple. If the customer is getting his samples and the entire order as well, gets one package of samples and then gets the rest of the shipment, you can just click this little shortcut here where it says to surge protector 10 samples plus entire order. Boom. And it creates 2 destinations out of this list of 50 or whatever. And it says 10 samples to the customer and shipping and due. Now the samples, let's say Let's say, the ship date up here is the 14th, but I want the samples to be delivered on the 14th. So I can pick that date, the 14th, and say I'm going to deliver them. So um, the samples, the 10 samples, are going by me the very day that we ship, and then the balance, the quantity, 3,000 quantity that goes after that goes, to this destination, comes in on the 16th, and we'll just say ship it the best way possible. All right, now let's just move on. If we had more destinations, we would just start clicking new destinations. It does show you how right under here it says 3,000 is the order plus 10 samples, and we have destined 2 destinations and covered all those copies, not counting the overs, but as part of the quantity there. All right, so let's produce a document called the sales order to production and output that here. I'm going to email it. Why not? I could print it. There's other things I could do. I could print out the delivery instructions. I could come back maybe and print out a confirmation of order. But let's turn in that order by email. And it shows, of course, customer, sales rep, where it's printing, what it is, when it's being printed out, what the schedule is, the specifications, the pricing, and then to see the next page, you can see there's little arrows up at the top that will take you through the pages. And I have 2 of the destinations specified here, the 10 samples, the 3,000 quantity, the destinations, the customers, 3 contacts, the customer sales contact, the proofs contact, and the invoicing contact. It shows how many samples to the sales rep, how many customer samples, also specified here, 10 samples as a delivery destination. And this is page 2 of 2. So you can look back forth, page 2 of 2. And the shipping, if you have one of those jobs that has like 50 shipping destinations, it'll roll on to subsequent pages. Now I click continue. Okay, now I click continue as we did in the last video, and it creates an email, and attached to that email is a PDF with the sales order to production attached to it. And we know what that looks like because we previewed it and we saved the PDF in our PDF folder. Now that it is a working job, see, it promoted itself from pending status to working. We can organize our working jobs, for example, by pulling down working. And we can do a number of things at this point. We can do a jobs report that lists all of our working jobs and allows us to track them and preview the status of these jobs. Here's a job report showing that we've got the swim spa banner with files coming in here, proofs coming in here, and so forth. We can report on our pipeline. We can go to just a plain working job sort. We can sort the working job sort by customer, by job title. We can mark a job as shipped just by clicking the truck, and it moves into the status of shipped. So we can do a billing. In fact, and we can also, for example, let's go into this job right here. It's a working job. Let's say that there's some author's changes happening here. There's a tab called ACs. You can see it. We got the specs, which we did, the specifications, then we quoted it. Then we went through the 4 order entry screens. You can build on the schedule. You've got part of a schedule here, and you can see we've got, several steps in it. But if you want more, there's lots more. And there's a lot of things you can do with the schedule. Let's just move on for now over to the author's changes. And you can write up a change, like say there's new type, red copy only, and that's going to be $100 charge for that, and it's a legitimate author's change, and then you got, say, a new photo, and that's a $400 change, and that's a legitimate AC, and you can like internal instructions. There's a huge functionality around author's changes. You can go on forever. You can address multiple rounds. Just for now, all we're going to do is quickly output a customer author's changes memo, which it summarizes the changes to date, how much they cost, what the quote was, and therefore what the job costs are to date. And you click continue, and it creates an email with the PDF attached to it, and it saves the PDF over to your PDF folder. So you're on record now with this customer that you did these changes, and they should cost about this much, and they have a hard copy. And now, when you go to the invoice screen, you can wrap up the billing on this job in a couple of clicks. You can say, well, let's see, that's how we described it as we turned the order in. Amounts, let's say we shipped final billable quantity of 3,100. Okay, so it calculates the overs and generates an amount. Now, I said to allow 1% overs. That is what we told the production department. They got more than that. You know, can we get away with it? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It's like 100 overs. Let's see if we can. Let's try to charge them for the overs. And let's remember that we said we're going to charge them estimated freight of this amount. Let's throw in a last minute plate change. Remember, we added that plate change just before we turned it in as an order that we're going to charge them $1,100. So we were really, the only thing we put in here at this point is a quantity. And we can then output what we call an invoice draft to the billing department. And what this is kind of a pro forma invoice. You can call it what you like, an invoice draft. And this allows the billing department to either receive instructions from you on how to build a job, or compare it to a document that they produced themselves. Or they could print this out. If they had access to jobs, they could print it out and have you review it. You know, there's all kinds of ways around it. But basically, it wraps up the entire process from request for estimate through invoice. And what you do with this invoice draft is up to you. I do recommend that you go through the screen, even if you don't produce the invoice and give it to anybody. If you're completely hands-off and they build a job on their own without your input, you want this information. You want to know how you did this. So when you go to reprint it next year, that you charge them for this many overs and you charge them for this many alterations. See the customer alterations right here is in there. And of course, not only that, but what you charge for the job and so forth. So this wraps it up, finishes the process. And when you output this PDF, like you can send it to your billing department, just by click continue, it'll create the email, attach the document to the email. You can send this to your billing department or your manager or whatever. It will also promote the job to, and we don't need a hard copy because of course we have it in our PDF folder. It will promote the job to build status. So now it shows up as a build sale when you do your sales reporting in the future, look back in time, who you sold to what, and also it shows up in your pipeline as a build job for this month, so it locks it in as a solid amount for the month. This is wrapping up the entire workflow from stem to stern, and all from going through the spec screens, a quote screen, the order screens, 1, 2, 3, 4, and putting in absolute minimum amount of effort into a maximum amount of output.